right, America. Burger Chef's got thick, juicy, terrific burgers for you. You're gonna love our burgers.
The Speedway Police Department and the Indiana State Police announced that the bodies of Jane C. Freed, age 20, Mark S. Flemons, age 17, Daniel R. Davis, age 16, Ruth E. Shelton, age 17, had been discovered late this afternoon in Johnson County, Indiana.
When missing from a burger chef on Crawfordsville Road near Speedway, the teenagers were killed.
Burger Chef was one of the original fast food giants before brands like McDonald's and Burger King took over. It got its start in 1954 in Indianapolis, thanks to brothers Frank and Donald Thomas. They were backed by a company that made flame broilers, so grilling burgers over an open flame became their signature. That unique cooking style helped them stand out across the country. By the time the 60s hit, they were also dropping game-changing ideas like the first kids meal, the fun meal, and creating the now standard combo meal. Throughout the 1960s and into the early 70s, Burger Chef was booming. By 1973, they had over 1,200 locations across the United States. They were especially big in the Midwest and Southeast, where they became local staples. Their branding was geared toward families, with fun characters like Burger Chef and Jeff that kids loved. The menu was affordable and had the basics: burgers, fries, and milkshakes, making it easy for people to choose them over newer fast food brands like Burger King or Wendy's. But even with their early wins, Burger Chef started running into serious problems. General Foods had taken over the brand in the late 60s, but the corporate approach didn't always match what worked for a fast food chain. Meanwhile, McDonald's was leveling up with cutting-edge marketing. Burger Chef, on the other hand, was stuck in the past. Its branding was inconsistent, its locations looked outdated, and it wasn't keeping up with national advertising. In 1982, General Foods decided to offload Burger Chef and sold it to Amasco, the company that owned Hardee's. From there, most Burger Chef restaurants either got converted into Hardee's or shut down entirely. Over the next few years, the brand faded away. Now, Burger Chef lives on mostly through nostalgia. People remember it for being ahead of its time with innovations like the kids' meal and combo deals. The name still pops up in retro threads, old commercials, and abandoned restaurant buildings. But Burger Chef's legacy isn't just tied to its rise and fall in the fast food industry. For many, it's also remembered for something far darker. In 1978, a horrific unsolved crime took place at a Burger Chef location in Speedway, Indiana, where 4 young employees were abducted during their shift and later found murdered. No struggle, no clear motive, just an empty restaurant and a mystery that still haunts people today. On the night of November 18, 1978, a Burger Chef employee in Speedway, Indiana, dropped by the restaurant to greet his coworkers as their evening shift wrapped up. But when he walked in, he found the place eerily deserted. The lights were on. Nothing appeared out of place at first glance, but the 4 employees who should have been there were gone. The staff scheduled for the evening included assistant manager, 20-year-old Jane Freet, 17-year-old Ruth Shelton, 16-year-old Daniel Davis, and 16-year-old Mark Flemings. The visitor called out, joking at first, but with growing alarm, still received no response. He checked the back rooms, the office, the bathrooms, nothing. There was no sign of a struggle, just an uneasy stillness. The 4 young people had vanished without a trace. He called the police, not realizing this would mark the beginning of one of the most baffling criminal cases in American history. The initial police response would set the tone for a case plagued by missed opportunities. Officers arriving at the scene assumed the worst they were dealing with was a prank or teenagers blowing off steam. Indiana State Trooper Jim Kramer was among the first to respond. He'd seen his share of teenage antics, and at first, officers suspected a robbery turned runaway. The restaurant's safe was open, money bags were scattered, and a roll of used adhesive tape lay on the floor. Around $581 had been taken, the equivalent of about $2,900 today. They advised locking the restaurant and reopening in the morning. No perimeter was secured, no evidence was collected. By the next day, the restaurant had been fully cleaned, scrubbing away what could have been crucial forensic leads. 2 days later, a couple hiking along a wooded lane about 30 minutes from the restaurant came across tire tracks. Curious, they followed them into the woods, and what they found would shock the nation. There were the bodies of Ruth Shelton and Daniel Davis, face down, executed with gunshots to the back of the head. They had been beaten as well. A short distance away, they found Jane, stabbed twice through the heart with such force that the knife blade had broken off in her chest. Mark Flemings had been beaten, possibly with a chain, and died by choking on his own blood. His body was found at the base of a tree, positioned unnaturally on a decline, arms above his head. All four were still wearing their burger chef uniforms, clear evidence this was not a case of runaway teens, but a brutal, targeted killing. Not only was this a quadruple murder, but it appeared senseless. The killers had the money, so why execute 4 teenagers? Public and media pressure mounted quickly. The country was still reeling from high-profile serial killers like Ted Bundy, and the burger chef murders captivated national attention.
4 young people were taken from this burger chef shortly after midnight while they were cleaning up.
We're all face down where we found them in various locations in the wooded area.
Yet the crime didn't follow a typical serial killer pattern. No sexual assault, different methods of killing, and a robbery thrown into the mix. It suggested rage, revenge, or possibly a personal connection to the victims. As investigators scrambled to understand what had happened, a new lead surfaced. 2 teens came forward saying they saw suspicious men outside the restaurant that night. The men, both white and in their 30s, pretended to be police officers and told the kids to leave the area. In an effort to move the investigation forward, authorities created clay sculptures based on the witnesses' descriptions. Sometime in late 1978, a man at a bar in Greenwood started bragging that he had something to do with the burger chef murders. Naturally, this caught the attention of the police, who brought him in for questioning. He ended up passing a polygraph when he denied any involvement, so they didn't have enough to charge him. But during the interview, he dropped a few names, people he claimed were part of a fast food robbery crew. Some of those names were already on the police's radar. While chasing down leads, investigators came across a man who looked a lot like the sketch of the bearded suspect. He was called in for a lineup, but right before it, he shaved off the beard he had worn for years, a move investigators found highly suspicious. Another person he named, who matched the look of the fair-haired suspect, also ended up behind bars for robbing other fast food restaurants. Still, since no one confessed and the police had no hard evidence, the case hit a dead end. At the time, there were rumors the murders might be connected to other disturbing crimes in the area, like the murder of Julius Cyphers and the Speedway bombings. But police later determined those cases were not related. Investigators kept digging and even followed leads as far as Cincinnati, Milwaukee, Chicago, and Dallas. Unfortunately, they never recovered key pieces of evidence, such as the murder weapon, the knife handle, or the chain used in the killings. In 1984, the case took a new turn when Donald Forrester, an inmate at Pendleton Correctional Facility, contacted Detective Mel Wilsey. Facing a transfer to a notoriously violent prison, Forrester said he would confess to the murders to avoid the move. He claimed to have shot Ruth Shelton and Daniel Davis, and even led police to the wooded crime scene, accurately describing how the bodies had been positioned, details that had not been made public. He also mentioned the broken knife handle, another detail only the killers would have known. Forrester said the whole thing started because Jane Frett's brother owed money from a drug deal. He and 3 others went to intimidate her at work, but things spiraled when Mark Flemings tried to intervene. Flemings hit his head during the fight, and thinking he might already be dead, they panicked. The group decided to kidnap and kill all the employees to eliminate witnesses. Forrester claimed responsibility for shooting Daniel and Ruth and named 3 others as the killers of Jane and Mark. He even showed police where he said he had tossed the gun, but a search turned up nothing. His ex-wife later told police that shortly after the murders, Forrester had taken her to a wooded area, picked up some shell casings, and flushed them down the toilet. Investigators got a warrant to search the septic tank and found several spent .38 caliber casings. But then the case hit another snag. Someone inside the sheriff's office leaked that Forrester was cooperating, and he immediately recanted his confession, claiming it had been forced.
If I had did that, I would never talk to him in the first place.
With no further help from him and no direct evidence, police couldn't charge him. Forrester died of cancer in 2006 while still in prison. Despite thousands of hours of work and a $2,500 reward offered by Burger Chef, no one was ever prosecuted, and the case remains unsolved. The Indiana State Police continue to keep it open and have reportedly used modern DNA technology in ongoing efforts to find answers. In the summer of 2018, the community of Speedway and the victims' families came together to honor the 4 lives lost. They raised enough money in less than 24 hours to plant 4 red oak trees, each with a plaque commemorating one of the victims. With the extra funds, a marble bench was also installed and dedicated to the victims' loved ones. On November 10th, just ahead of the 40th anniversary of the murders, a small memorial ceremony was held at Leonard Park. Jane, Ruth, Daniel, and Mark were more than just names in a cold case file. They were sons and daughters, siblings and friends, each with dreams and plans that were tragically cut short. Jane was a bright, ambitious assistant manager who was taking on more responsibility at work while trying to figure out her future. Ruth was known for her kindness and love of music, a high school honor student with a promising path ahead. Daniel had only recently started working at Burger Chef and was still navigating the early days of teen life. Mark was a popular athlete and a protective older brother. Each of them had a future that would never unfold. Their families didn't just lose loved ones, they lost birthdays, graduations, weddings, and the quiet, everyday moments that make up a lifetime. For decades, parents, siblings, and friends have carried the grief of what was stolen from them, alongside the frustration of an unsolved case.
I've always had some hope, but I guess there's a difference between hoping and believing. So I know that there's always that chance that this could actually be solved, but I'm not going to hold my breath. I'm here to talk about people. These aren't just victims. That was my sister. That was her co-worker. Jane, Mark, Daniel, and Ruth are real people with real families, with real friends that deserve justice. But when there's a murder involved in this, it's harder to move on because all of the boxes, all of those steps that are supposed to be taken aren't complete. We don't have all the answers. And there's someone out there that does. If you know something about this and you can help these investigators to bring conclusion to this, I would greatly appreciate it. And I'm sure that the families and friends of every one of these people would too.
If you or anyone you know has information related to the Burger Chef murders, please contact Crime Stoppers of Central Indiana. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know which case you want me to cover next, and remember to stay curious, stay safe, and stay skeptical.